Despite third-party efforts to reach a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the violence continues. This is a live look at the area right now. The death toll, we do know, is rising. The strikes have continued. The scene in Gaza right now. They're in that live shot. Now, there were more Israeli airstrikes earlier today in Gaza City. Here's a look at that. Meantime, Hamas says it has fired more than 900 rockets from Gaza into Israel since the fighting began Wednesday. Israel puts that number at 1,000 rockets. At least 46 people have been killed in Gaza since Wednesday, 3 people killed in Israel. So as the two sides continue trading fire and tanks are massing near the Gaza border, preparing for a possible ground invasion, the tension continues. Egypt's intelligence chief is apparently spearheading talks with Hamas and Israel in the hopes of forging some kind of a ceasefire.
Well, 2 hours ago, these pictures came in from Gaza showing a large blast in the city. The World Health Organization says hospitals in Gaza are overwhelmed with casualties and are running short of medical supplies. There have been several more explosions in the past hour. The authorities in Gaza now say 48 people have been killed in the bombardment since Wednesday. 3 Israelis have died in Palestinian rocket attacks. A BBC correspondent in Gaza City says the streets are virtually deserted, with drones and fighter jets overhead, and civilians only leaving their homes to get food or fuel.
Nevertheless, the militants are refusing to back down, and in this footage, which can't be verified, it appears to show yet more rockets launched towards Israel. A show of strength which Hamas's military wing says is proof it is prepared for a long fight.
Al-Qassam Brigade retains its strength. It has more and more surprises to show. It is still strong enough to destroy the enemy and crush its arrogance.
So there is stalemate as Israel too reiterates its resolve, calling up thousands of reservists and vowing to root out the militants over the border.
Most of their arsenal of weapons is sitting inside houses. They are using civilians as shields. They're firing from within the houses. It's not easy. We do not want to hurt the civilians of Gaza, but we do want to hit the hornet's nest.
And while the military rhetoric continues, it is civilians on both sides of the border who fear the consequences.
Gaza's controlled by Islamist group Hamas, who've seen their government buildings in Gaza destroyed, including the offices of Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh. Referring to a report on the 2008-9 Gaza offensive that concluded Israel possibly committed war crimes, a Hamas spokesman said the actions of Israel's Prime Minister would put him under the spotlight. Netanyahu is working against himself. He's preparing a new file of war criminal acts, and he's working also to be part of a new Goldstone report. Hamas also say an Israeli airstrike has damaged the police headquarters, and 200 such attacks were made on Friday night. 350 Palestinians have been injured as Israel's Air Force strikes back in a tit-for-tat situation that many fear could replicate the last 3-week conflict that killed 1,400 Palestinians.
Arab foreign ministers have been holding an emergency meeting on this crisis in Gaza. They say they're going to review their diplomacy towards Israel. Meeting in Cairo, the group said a special task force will review the usefulness of the current Arab peace initiative. This was the one that goes back to 2002, when Arab leaders offered Israel recognition if it withdrew from occupied territory and solved the refugee issue. But Arab concessions have ended in failure, and the League's chief, Nabil al-Arabi, will head a delegation to Gaza in the coming days.
There is no Arab guarantee, but there is a Palestinian resolve. We're not going back to these futile negotiations anymore. We will go to negotiations when 2 absolutely necessary things happen. One, the Israelis commit themselves to the terms of reference upon which we went into this peace process, and two, the Israelis implement what they have signed for and what the quartet's roadmap indicates.
The whole situation needs a clear and honest review. We know what happened in the 2008 war on Gaza. We know what happened then. We know who conspired against the Palestinians and who did not. We must be honest to our brothers in Palestine. We shouldn't give them hope without delivering on it.
Israel is assembling tanks and armored vehicles along its border with Gaza. Once a ground invasion starts, it's feared that many civilian casualties will follow.
In Tel Aviv, we have faced 2 rockets. Both didn't hit inside the city. So there is a probability, a slight probability, that it will hit inside Tel Aviv. The Iron Dome brings down this probability.
The life in Tel Aviv goes on. If you go in the street, everything is as usual.
Usual now means warning sirens echoing through the streets and residents scrambling for cover.
Again, you see we have to run. Let's go, let's go!
It's a similar scene in Ashdod in southern Israel, where Hamas rockets damaged several buildings. As the conflict deepens, Israel's considering launching a ground offensive into Gaza.
A ground offensive is definitely an option, as well as other options. We have begun to draft reservists yesterday morning, and we are ready whether this option will be decided or not.